Excluding funiculars, Switzerland's public transit railway network runs on 4 different track gauges. Most of the network uses the international standard gauge of 1435 millimeters. But then this is Switzerland, and Switzerland has mountains, which of course lends itself to an extensive meter gauge network. Sorry, did I say meter gauge network? Make that networks, because every mountain valley seems to have decided it needed its own quirky little system. On top of that, a handful of lines run on 800 millimeters, mostly in the Bernese Alps, where trains climb slopes which could make a mountain goat dizzy. And finally, there's a lone holdout in the northeast running at 1200 millimeters, the Rheineck-Walzenhausen line. Yes, it's tiny, yes, it's obscure, and yes, it's still part of the network. Now, for Switzerland to function as one unified public transit network, passengers need to be able to change from one gauge to another during their trips. So these different systems have to meet at interchange points, like here in Liestal, where the meter gauge Waldenburgerli connects to the SBB's standard gauge mainline. Nothing dramatic, just a simple cross-platform transfer. And really, that's not unusual. Well, not anymore. But that's a story for a different video. There are plenty of such interchange stations scattered across the country. But there's one station that tops them all. Welcome to Montreux, the European home of jazz, the town with that Freddie Mercury statue, the closest thing Switzerland has to the sea, and this sorry stretch of pebbles they dare call a beach. But forget the palm trees and the festivals. Hidden between the vineyards and the jazz clubs lies something you'll struggle to find anywhere else in Europe. Though you can find it. A tri-gauge railway station. Yep, 3 different gauges, all crammed into one hillside complex. So how does this layout work? Well, closest to the lake, you've got the standard gauge tracks, where SBB intercities slide along the lakeshore between Lausanne and the Valais. And fun fact, if we went by the German definition of station, Montreux wouldn't even qualify as one on the standard gauge network. There aren't any switches here. The nearest ones are halfway up the line to the next station in the direction of Lausanne. By that logic, this is just a stop. So logically, the tracks are numbered 1 and 3. In the middle, you can find the meter gauge MOB, the Montreux Oberland Bernois Railway. This is where the fancy GoldenPass express trains depart for Zweisimmen. But it's also where the little commuter runs grind up into the suburbs, zigzagging through a series of switchbacks that seem determined to climb every terrace above the lake. And finally, tucked away in the shadows, the MGN, Montreux, Clion, Rocher de Naye. Just 800 millimeters wide, rack assisted, and very ambitious. Leaving the station, it bursts out into the light for just a second before diving straight back into a tunnel. There, it starts climbing like it's late for a yodeling contest. It climbs all the way to the green alpine eagle's nest at Rocher de Naye, with sweeping views of the lake. Well, sometimes. And the high Alps beyond. 3 gauges, 1 station. No wonder then that Montreux is the European home of jazz. Even the railway system here has taken improvisation to heart. And just when you thought that was complicated enough, Montreux said, "Hold my fondue fork." The new GoldenPass Express coaches, inaugurated in 2022, are fitted with bogies that can change gauge on the fly. The train literally rolls through a track section in Zweisimmen, where its wheels are shifted from meter gauge to standard gauge. Which means you can board a train in Montreux and ride all the way to Interlaken without ever changing trains. In other words, Montreux isn't just a tri-gauge junction, it's also the launchpad for Switzerland's first through-running gauge changer. So yes, Montreux is about wine, jazz, and the Riviera. But it's also a living railway museum, where three different systems meet, coexist, and occasionally blur together. Come for the lake, stay for the gauges. Unless it's a hot summer day, then honestly just stick with the lake.